I want you to get together.
Hello everyone, I've got one today for you that's a little bit of fun. Something a little bit more light-hearted off the back of all the messed up division caused by talking about the millennial reign possibly happening already and etc, etc. And what I'm about to say may not actually be too far from continuing along this train of thought that the millennial kingdom has come and gone, and the idea that, well, where are Jesus and all the saints then, you know? And the theory goes, well, they're in the centre of the earth. And by that we mean literally the North Pole, right in the middle. And that place is, it's Eden. It's the kingdom, you know, it's where they all are, just waiting to be encircled by Satan in the last days, when they make war with the saints, you know. They're just sat there waiting. And it's not the season yet, but summer's going, autumn's here, and we're on our way, you know. Christmas is around the corner. And there's always a video every now and then, isn't there? Basically talking about how, how corrupt Christmas truly is. And how satanic and evil it really is, you know, and how we shouldn't be following that, especially as Christians, but even as truthers, just in general. Christmas is definitely a holiday to actually avoid in a mainstream sense, because it's an invention by occultic Satanists well, many things, get us to obsess over materialistic ideals, you know, to get children to look forward to getting stuff from a figure that it's questionable at best, you know. Now we'll get into Christmas and why it's messed up, and why me and my wife certainly won't be telling our child, you know, that Santa Claus is real, for many reasons. But one thing I want to finish on this point of the millennial reign and the millennial kingdom link is that this was mentioned in the Telegram chat, by the way. So credit goes to the people who brought this up in there. This isn't my idea, but I thought it was funny and definitely worth sharing with everybody else. But it's the idea that, well, what we call Santa Claus, this man with his elves in the North Pole who makes toys, who is omnipresent with godlike abilities, who has the ability to travel all over the earth in one night and put presents during home invasions into everybody's house, you know. And this magical being in the North Pole is actually a satanic inversion of Jesus Christ and the saints who are currently in the North Pole, as we call it, you know. And let's go through it, you know, let's break this idea down, because this is interesting and fun, in a dark, if it's true type of a way, which is usually how conspiracy goes, you know. So let's start with the basics. We know that Santa Claus is in an icy tundra in the north, we call the North Pole. It's a cold place, isn't it, you know? Well, what if the truth is that the Rupus Negra, the black rock in the middle where Jesus Christ has his throne, and the surrounding islands around it, you know, the four corners of it, is actually a paradise. Not cold at all. Maybe it's a place where the sun never sets, for all we know. Well, it's just what they say about going really far north or south, isn't it? The sun doesn't set, so there's or the opposite, you know. Yeah, there's no darkness for so long, or the opposite, I think, is they do say it's nothing but darkness and no sun. It goes in cycles, you know. Well, I do think it's possible that where they are is a warm, perfected paradise, you know, where the saints are. It's Eden, if you want to call it anything. But we, in the satanic inversion, are led to believe the North Pole is a cold, bitter, icy place where no one can inhabit or should go, you know. And I remember reading stories, or hearing stories being read about people who travelled to the north, you know, and they ended up going past the cold point into a warmer, more tepid, better place, you know. I've heard these stories of, there was a story of a guy who travelled on his boat who got to this place, and there was giants there, you know, human beings that were bigger, you know, and they took him in, you know, basically showed him some stuff while he was there before coming back and to tell his tale. But it explains that once you get past the icy part, it actually gets warmer again, the closer to the centre you go. which is interesting, you know, from this supposed tale, that if that's true, then yeah, we've been lied to, you know. So that's the first inversion. You know, the center of the earth, where Jesus Christ it currently is. This is like I said, this is if the theory is true. You know, it's not an icy tundra like we're told where Santa Claus lives. So Santa Claus, you know, what is he? But he's an omniscient God who knows everything about everybody. He knows if you're naughty or nice, and he makes a list. Okay, so this is a works-based religion, or whether you do good things or bad things depends on how you will be duly punished or rewarded. You know, and that's the opposite again of a Jesus-run situation, which is faith-based. And it's not just by your works alone that gets you into heaven, essentially, or gets you past the white throne judgment, you know. Works without faith are dead, essentially. But in true Egyptian style, it's whether or not you do enough good deeds over bad deeds. So another inversion there of what Santa Claus is really all about compared to Jesus, you know. Obviously, Jesus is supposed to be some kind of Middle Eastern, brown-haired, relatively thin, but I suppose muscly carpenter. You know? And what is Santa Claus but a fat, old, white-bearded man, you know? And even that alone is that typical stereotype image of God in the clouds. So there's, again, a bit of an inversion there to what's really going on in the north. Santa, we know, is an anagram of Satan. And people say Santa Claus is Satan's claws, you know, and that I've heard that plenty of times, but whether that's real or not is neither here nor there in that respect, if that's just something we've made up because it sounds the same. But yeah, it seems like he is a good AntiChrist figure. Not the Antichrist, but it's certainly, everything about him is a mimic of Christ, but the opposite, if you get what I mean. So Santa Claus is in the North Pole and he makes toys. Okay, and he makes things, doesn't he? Small, trivial, useless things with his ability to build. Jesus is a carpenter who builds houses and homes, you know, and his dad's home has many mansions and all that type of thing, you know. So in a pathetic inversion of the situation, as a creator, as a maker, Santa Claus spends his time building trivial nonsense, materialistic nonsense, worldly things, you know. And Jesus Christ is a builder, a carpenter, you know, and builds things to help people establish their homes, essentially. So it's the opposite, something useful to build, something worthy of building. So there is that inversion as well. Santa has his little elves, okay, who do all his bidding for him, and essentially a slave class of some kind, and small and weak, but, you know, they build the materialistic stuff and help maintain the world of children wanting things that they don't really need. Well, Jesus is there with his saints, who are perfected humans, who are gods in their own right in that respect compared to us, and are not small, you know, and the things they build and create and work towards only work towards bettering the kingdom of heaven, okay, not worldly things. So a perfect satanic inversion, the literal opposite again, all based in the same locale apparently. And I suppose that's where the parallels kind of stop. Let me know if you can think of any other satanic weird inversions to do with Jesus Christ and the saints and Santa Claus and his elves in the North Pole, which should be warm and a paradise from Jesus' perspective, but is presented as a cold, lifeless tundra from our perspective, you know. Just those parallels are there, you know, and I think with the new context of a possible millennial reign that's come and gone, in which Christ and the saints have moved to this place, just awaiting the last battle now, which would be the North Pole, which most people have kind of predicted and based it on. A place which, according to all of our modern maps, has disappeared and doesn't exist and is just an ice sheet or water. There's nothing there, you know, supposedly. Even though glimpses have been made that show there's something there that they're hiding, you know. Like on Google Maps, some guys found a slither where the layers were joined together. going all the way through the north, and if you follow it, you see islands appear and all sorts of things start appearing, you know, which are otherwise hidden from us and not presented on Google Maps. We're seeing supposed satellite footage that show a giant hole in the top or some kind of vortex swirl with a mountain in the middle. You know, there's something there, and it's occulted. It's hidden from us. But I just find this parallel story, first of all, Santa Claus being just a perfect satanic inversion of Jesus Christ and the saints. That actually makes sense to me in a fun, weird, maybe not kind of way. But let's just talk about Christmas in general. I know this is October when I'm making this. Maybe I should be talking about Halloween instead. But I just want to talk about Christmas because it's less than 100 days away. It's almost there, you know, and it's just one of those things that we're all kind of forced in society to venerate and worship and continue, you know. And there's that classic, well, you know, it's just Saturnalia from Roman pagan times. It's a pagan party feast festival of sex and orgies from the Roman times that kind of got Christianized into this thing we call Christmas, you know. And Jesus wasn't born in December. He was more likely born on September the 11th, I'm finding, you know. Just a throwaway comment there. I'm not going to elaborate on that at all. Look into it. But it's kind of the god that we are celebrating at this time is basically the sun, in a sense. It's all about equinoxes and things like that. It's just pagan stuff. The usual, the cyclical nature of seasons and the festivals that would go with those season changes that are usually involving excess. Is basically what Saturnalia was, you know, and I'm bastardizing and simplifying it, I know, but it's just more pagan shit, just more of the same stuff. You know? And that's what Christmas is realistically based on in terms of calendar and time and why we do it then. So it's nothing to do with Jesus Christ being born on that day. And it's naive to think that now. It's kind of like in the age of information that we have, it's kind of, you should know now that that's not really what Christmas was all about. I mean, there's other ones. I've heard other stories that Santa Claus is kind of also an amalgamed image created from many things, but one which I always found interesting was, I think it's Serbian, really northern hemisphere shamans of some kind. I'm not sure where, maybe it's Finland or something, where they have these houses, these yurts, that would basically just be like a circle shape, and the roof would have a hole right in the middle at the top, like a funnel. And when they got snowed in every year, that's how they would get in and out of their house with a ladder. They would go in and out of this funnel at the top of their house. And they wouldn't go through the front door anymore because they couldn't. And in this area, you know, is where they have these evergreen Douglas fir trees, you know, the typical Christmas tree, all over the place. And it's where the Amanita muscaria mushroom would grow, which is the red-capped white polka dot mushroom. And this shaman would basically pick these mushrooms under these trees and pop them in the tree to dry as he would go around picking more. And then he would collect them all at the end of his foraging, and it looked like a tree decorated in baubles, but it's covered in these psychedelic mushrooms. The shaman would put the mushrooms in his sack over his shoulder, and this shaman would typically wear like a green robe with a pointy hood, have a big beard, you know, the usual druid stuff. And the wizard stuff, you know. And he would basically take this sack of magic mushrooms and he would go down the chimneys of these yurts and sell them to the pagan people of the area. And these people would then take the mushrooms, put them in stockings or socks and hang them over the fireplace to dry them out. Then in the morning, they would eat the mushrooms and have a psychedelic trip. And whether they were good or bad would depend on what kind of trip they would have, basically. It was kind of like a cleansing ritual of sorts. I've heard that one before, and I thought that was interesting. That is kind of... But I think there's plenty of myths all around Europe that kind of incorporate into modern Christmas that we celebrate now in the West. And obviously there's the whole Krampus ideal as well from German folklore. And that, you know, Santa Claus had a demon counterpart that would punish naughty children. You know, it's all pagan, demonic stuff at its core, and we know that. Okay, we know that now. It's done to death. It's been said over and over and over again. There are thousands of videos online. If you just want to type it in and actually look into it, you'll see that people have been exposing all this stuff for decades. It's the jig is up, but we still do it, don't we? We still get forced to do it. The TV will start instantly telling you it's Christmas is coming up, you're ready to spend all your money, and you've got to start getting the decorations up, you've got to get in the spirit or else you're a Grinch, that kind of attitude. Start shaming you into following it. And then all those parents start coming out, shaming all those other parents who refuse to lie to their children and tell them that a man breaks into the house every night and leaves gifts for you, whether or not you're good or bad. And I'm just not comfortable lying to my child about that kind of stuff, personally. And I think there's something to be said for the deep psychological, messed up nature of doing that to a child. So, you are their parent. You are the one person in this entire existence that they trust. Okay? They just implicitly trust you. And they have to trust you to survive. And you, what do you do if you tell them Santa Claus is real? So you lie to your child, right? And then they grow up believing that this big godlike creature, this fat old man, that they sit on the knee in like supermarkets and stuff. It's just weird, you know what I mean? Like this big fat old man. If they behave themselves, then the fat man with a beard will give them stuff. Okay? That's just weird. Why do we tell our children that? And then guess what? They grow up believing that while they're innocent and naive, and then one day they realize, my parents lied to me. Santa isn't real. There is no magic. And then they're dead inside for like a year or two until they internalize the trauma that the most trusted people they ever, all the adults around them and their parents lied to them, were implicit in this lie. That's a child has to process that mentally, and I think it scars them. I don't think it's good for them at all. And I will not be one of those parents who lies to my children like that. I will not betray my child's trust as their father. And think about the implications of this on a subtle level. You get your child to believe in an omniscient, all-knowing, godlike being who follows whether or not you're good or bad, for them to then grow up and discover it's not real. Well, they're going to apply that traumatic framework to God, aren't they? They're going to apply that to Jesus, and they're going to grow up saying, I don't believe in fairy tales like Santa Claus or God. They'll equate the two as though they're equals in some way when they're just not. It's not the same thing whatsoever. And as I just explained, it seems like Santa Claus is literally a symbol amalgamated in the West by secret societies or occultists to mock Jesus through and through. It's possible that's what it was. And they've got people believing in a false Christ every year, cyclically, in a ritualistic manner, which the result of the ritual is every year thousands and thousands and millions of children learn it's a lie. There's periods, where there's also at the same time there's thousands of children who believe in the lie, but every year more children continuously ritualistically discover they are betrayed and it's all a lie, and then it just kills the faith in ever believing in anything like that. It's a possibility that there is an all-knowing, omniscient God that loves you. And again, like I said, what's this? If you're good or bad, you'll get rewarded. That's not Christianity, And why does no one question this idea that, we're supposed to be celebrating, the birth of Jesus today, but we also at the same time worship Santa Claus and tell our children all about Santa Claus? How can those two things happen at the same time? Never mind that they're both lies anyway. But there's this false dichotomy created that there's the Christians at Christmas and then there's the pagans at Christmas. The pagans do the Santa Claus thing, the Christians do the Jesus nativity thing. But both are complete bollocks. They're both lies. They both mean nothing in reality whatsoever. So truly, this yearly ritual has everybody completely deceived. And there's people like me, and even my wife, and she's not exactly like I am in terms of religious belief necessarily, but she understands, Santa Claus is stupid. And it's cruel to lie to our children about stuff like that. The common sense is there. And every year we all kind of get cajoled into it, but then people like us say, no, I'm not doing that. And what happens? We get shamed. You know, and they try and push us through peer pressure into, go on, just lie to your child. I don't want your child ruining it for my child. It's kind of like, I'm not helping you be complicit in your lies to your children. Shut up. Don't gaslight me into thinking I'm the bad guy because I won't keep up your lie. Like, what? That's not how it works. I am choosing not to lie to my child. You are choosing to lie to your child. Don't make me an accomplice in your lie. That's just, and don't shame me for refusing to be an accomplice in your lies to children. Like, understand that's what's going on. Right? That's what's actually, it's just your cognitive dissonance brainwash mind doesn't grasp the concept that you've been utterly lied to and what you're doing is stupid, wrong, and borderline evil. And such is the way of pagan holidays, you know. Anyway, we'll leave that there. I think I've made some fun random ranting points about Christmas and how stupid it is. But one thing to take away from it, in context, this millennial kingdom come and gone, Jesus Christ in the North Pole thing, well, Santa Claus is literally an satanic inversion of that possibility. So we'll leave it there. Thanks for listening, and as always, God bless.
I want you to get together.